Hi everyone, Kerry Sacco here from the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show. Welcome to 5 O'Clock Club. This is very exciting. I didn't get to do any demos during our June virtual show. Oops, Jojo made it in. So anyway, welcome to whoever chooses to chime in. I encourage comments. I'm going to do a little brief studio tour, and today's demo is based on painting reflections. So what I love to do is our like surrounding creeks and waterways throughout Pennsylvania where I live, and in fact we have a beautiful creek and a pond right outside here, so that's going to be one of the paintings that I'm going to do today. But I'll just talk about some of my materials and some of the techniques I've developed for creating that reflective surface in water, and you know, just little tidbits to share with you. And like I said, I encourage a lot of questions. We'll be doing a little, because it is happy hour here and it's a beautiful day, we're going to be sharing one of our favorite summer cocktail recipes. So first of all, my handsome cameraman is, watch your finger there on the bottom, Jim, it might be blocking the sound. Can you flip around to say hi to everybody?
How does the cameraman do that?
I'll just turn it around
Oh,
face you.
okay.
There you are. Okay, there he is. Okay. All right. So can you see comments in the chat?
I can.
You can. Okay, good. So anyway,
Sharon
Sharon
Strine says hello.
New York City in the house.
Hi, Sharon.
So we live in central Pennsylvania in Lancaster, beautiful Lancaster County, and like I said, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous day. And we have a beautiful stone farmhouse that was built in the 1800s, and my studio is actually in the farmhouse, in an addition that was put on in like the 1840s or something like that. So it's very, very cool. We had shelving put in for wet work. You can pan up to the ceiling. We took two-thirds of a ceiling out and created a loft and just kept everything very cool and exposed, and used some old barn wood for railing, and just has a really, really neat feel to it. So follow me while I put the dog out of the studio.
I forgot to put the gate.
Okay.
He follows me everywhere.
Go. Okay, that was the drama. So come on over here to some of my railings that we have put up. So if you zero in a little bit in some of these paintings, you can see how I approach some reflectiveness. Now all of, like the first two here are Pennsylvania. So this is the Delaware River, and you know, I was focusing on a plein air exhibit, just like a little boat, and that's a little dock there, but you can see some of the way that I deal with water coming down with the sky reflecting in it, but also where the water's kind of standing still and there's a little bit of, you see the translucency, and you see what's underneath it here. This is one that I did, another plein air piece. It's just a little canal kind of path, like a tow path that was put in, and again, it's just like the soft reflection of the tow bridge going into very, very still water. So water seeks to kind of be flat, and I'm not a very good out there in the elements plein air painter. Like, it's got to be perfect conditions for me. I can put up with a little bit of cold, but if it's windy and not pleasant at all, I kind of call it in. But I'll just kind of go over what I see when I first start a painting, and I have some reference photos to work with. So we can turn around and take a look at that big Ridley Creek one here.
some of your watchers are?
Sure. Say.
So Lila's here. Lila Charansky Villard.
Yes.
Leela. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Leela. Okay.
Hi, Leela.
And Samantha Hewitt Fruchtman is watching.
Okay. Hi, Samantha.
Oh, I'm supposed to be on here.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you can back up a little bit. So this is a favorite subject of mine. This
And
is
Colleen Cook is watching.
Hi, Colleen. This is Ridley Creek State Park, just outside of Philadelphia, and it has a beautiful waterfall. And I paint it in all seasons. It's beautiful. It has trails, paved trails. It has off-road trails, and there's just something about the way the water, especially pools in here, that I'm always drawn to. And there's a lot of really big rocks. Now, a lot of times they just keep it very natural. So a lot of times in storms, you know, the big trees fall down. So we have to take into account for that. But these are just some of the, of course, this is like high summer. You can tell by the full foliage, by the greens and the blues. A lot of times this waterfall, if it's a heavy rainstorm, this will be like a complete sheet of white rushing over, and this will be like kind of a murky mess. But again, this is one of my favorite subjects to revisit. And, you know, there's nothing like revisiting the same subject again and again. You see something new. And lately, when I've gotten a chance to walk here, there's been a lot of fishermen. And so I thought, like, one of these days I'm going to capture them in action. They have their waders on and everything. It must be kind of like little...
Mary Lynn's watching.
Hi, Mary Lynn. We'll show a Pocono painting later. So this is the same area. This is the exact same scene that we just saw, only this is winter. And I love winter landscapes because the subtleties of color shifts is just something that you really have to be patient and observe. So I just really love this back here, how it's muted, but you can see the bright sun and more saturated colors, hitting here with a lot more brush work. But back here, it's very soft. I kept it very subtle. It's an atmospheric perspective to make it go back. And again, you just see the falls peeking through. And so, you know, just notice some of the reflective qualities that I've kind of dealt with here. And I'll show you how I kind of go about that a couple different ways. This is another favorite subject. This is a bridge that spans the Susquehanna from Lancaster County to York County. It's pretty historic. It's called the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge or Veterans Memorial Bridge. And this was a start of a plein air piece. And then the wind, you know, it was great. I called this one Cue the Fisherman because I set up, the cloud was perfect. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to capture this? And all of a sudden a fishing boat came putting around and positioned himself like perfectly. And the fisherman had a red sweatshirt on. So I was just like, it's like a director, a movie director had a megaphone yelling, you know, cue the fisherman. Well, then it kind of got all windy and a mess, and I had to take my reference photos and pack it all up. But again, you see the reflective quality of the water. So I'll come back to some of these paintings when I discuss a little bit more about what I'm doing on the easel. Let me see, do I have anything else?
So Sharon asked, in a situation like that where the day deteriorates, do you continue to work from memory, or how do you do that? How do you continue?
I take reference photos and then I work from those reference photos. But a lot of times that very quick, the thing that caught your eye the most, if you can get like any big blobs, big color masses in, that is really helpful in capturing the plein air pieces, because it's really nothing like observing directly from nature to really sense the color, the essence of like actually being there? That's a good question.
Very good. Yes, it was.
Okay, so we're gonna come over to my messy palette. You can zero in on some of this here. So when I work, my original palette, which is something that was influenced by studying like with the Pennsylvania Academy. So I just put down a few of the transparent colors, and a lot of them are like the earthy colors. So this is a transparent red oxide, just a clay, like a red clay. This is a transparent yellow oxide, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and I do like to use a sap green. I know a lot of people
What kind of green is that?
sap, S-A-P.
SAP.
A lot of people like to mix their own greens or use a higher chroma. So chroma is, you know, the saturation of the pigment of the color. So then to this palette, and I lay it out the same way every time. I'm going to add some colors that are kind of neutralizers. I'm going to add colors that are the really, really chromatic colors that you might need for one reason or another. And then I'll add some really interesting kind of soft pastels that I got as a set called the Modern Impressionist set. And this is a company called Vasari. And their paints are wonderful. But these colors, believe it or not, they just make the nicest little, softest, subtle changes in a color. I don't use any of these straight out of the tube. There are some bits and pieces are always added. Some of these modern impressionist colors, I paint a lot of little songbirds, and these are really helpful in capturing some of the colors in them, especially the goldfinches and the hummingbirds. And
John Bandish joined us.
Hi, John. How are you? I'm Kerry. Nice to meet you. All right, so I'm going to add, come and show you how I lay out some of the neutral colors. So these are, again, same company, Vasari. I did a workshop, and these are wonderful for changing the temperature or knocking down some of the intensity of a color without changing the light and dark quality, the value. These are just really nice. And this is just a kind of a gray, a steely gray. This is a very cool woodsy green. These are two kind of buff colors.
John's from checking in from Bethany Beach.
Oh, hi, John.
That's where our friend
Yeah.
is at Turtle Walk.
Okay, and then, so those are some of the neutrals, and I keep them down here. There's another neutral here, a raw umber, that I like to use a touch of every once in a while. So then I'm going to come back past here, and I'm going to start creating a line of yellows and move it into my reds, into my blues, and into my greens. So let's go with a yellow. So this is a great Naples yellow. I love this. It's, you know, buttery, yummy kind of color. And lemon yellow. This one is really good for my goldfinches too. It's a greenish yellow, actually. Yellow ochre is a nice color. Yellow ochre is great if it's a cloudy day and you want to have a little pop of color. A lot of plein air painters like yellow ochre. I just use a little bit of it. It usually sits on my palette for a while. I think I used it more when I used to do portraits at through the academy. So, okay, so we did our yellows. Now I'll start coming into some reds. So this is a great red. It is an option for people who are trying to get away from using cadmium colors. Can you read what that says? I don't have my reading glasses
Keep
on.
it still.
Yeah.
There we go. What is it called? What, something bright red.
Yeah. So
Permanent
it's
bright red.
it's really it's a nice, really bright color for that's, you know, high chroma. And this little rose bud, it's actually a great little neutralizer as well. So I'm just going to keep that in the red category. I don't typically, I use a lot of the colors I use most is this transparent oxide red. So these reds I just kind of keep to dip in as a reference here and there.
So obviously you adjust the volume based on your anticipated
Correct.
usage. Yeah.
Correct. Was that your question, Jimmy?
It was.
Oh
How
my
about
gosh,
that?
that's a great question.
You don't want to waste paint.
Yeah, that's true. I'm like those you know, people that grew up in the Depression. I'm still back in art school. Oh my gosh.
What was that?
That was the champagne.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that popped on its own.
Oh, you
folks.
had the thing off, the wire.
Yeah. So glad it didn't hit you in the head. Let me see if there's, okay, so I have a really great violet, an ultramarine violet that I use. And you can drag that down a little bit. And if I wanted to go high chroma with this is a cadmium green light. And this is a really nice color, this video blue. I just kind of throw that on there. So, oh, okay, so there's another blue that I have a love-hate relationship with. It's phthalo blue. You know, phthalo is one of those colors that it's transparent, it spreads like hell if you get some on you. And I don't always use it, but it is good. Here it is. It is good for doing like you know, a blue-green, but it's very intense. Some of you oil painters already know that. You just have to use a little bit at a time, but you can make a ton of colors. You know, you can probably make sap green with that. You know, mix it with the transparent oxide. So let me clean up a little bit.
Kerry, where did you find that Vasari paint? Where do you buy it?
I order it online. I took a workshop with a painter named Scott Christensen, and they actually make grays for him, and that's how much he, you know, admires their paint. So he did a workshop very close to me, just south in the top of the Beltway in Baltimore, Maryland, and Vasari, which is located in New York, came down to the workshop, and you know, they let you just play around with all their paints and purchase it there. So I got hooked from that workshop, and then I'm on their email list, and they would do very nice email newsletters of you know, just the history of some of the colors, and their staff is very knowledgeable about mixing colors and things that you want.
Janice Asarf has joined us.
Hi, Janice. Okay, so let's check our time. It's 5:20. I've been talking a lot. Okay, so let's look at this. I have a creek scene started here that is going to be a winter scene. And it is, the creek nearby here is called the Little Conestoga. So the thing that I like to do first is to get some of the background established with the thicker layers of paint, and then I can work on as it starts reflecting down here. So you might be wondering why I have different colors in the underpainting. And this is just something that the way I like to work. I don't always work this way, but I take kind of the opposite color on the you know, the color wheel. So I imagine like a really light pale violet for the sky, so I did a really thin down yellow wash. For the blues in here, I did a transparent oxide red as well as a little bit of that that cadmium red color. You'll see a lot of painters do a whole big transparent wash of just one color, and that's really effective too. And then the big reflection that we're going to see is from this rock, and I just kind of hit it with some of the violet and a little bit in here. So this is just a little bit for me to get started. So I'm going to quick mix some colors for you and start hitting it pretty quickly. I use a medium called Galkid. Woo, where is it? There it is. I love this. I only buy small bottles like this because it ends up getting a little bit thick on me. It helps my paint still have that beautiful glossy look on the canvas or the panels that I paint on, and then I don't have to necessarily it dries in more evenly instead of matte in some areas and glossy in some area and other areas. So let me quick do a little mix of some of the sky color. I'm going to need a lot of white in this. I use a white that is real buttery. Just kind of pour some Galkid in there. If I'm doing plein air painting, I use a medium called Liquin that accelerates the drying of the oils.
You said that fast.
Liquin.
Liquid.
Yes. But what I found with Liquin is a little bit later as the paintings dry, they do dry a little bit unevenly. So I usually put a little note on my plein air pieces like, call me in 6 months if it needs to be varnished. Okay, just keep going with questions, folks, if you have any. So I'm just going to do a couple little touches in here to see if I have the right temp. I could go just a teeny bit lighter. And when I need to go with big areas, I sometimes I just use, you know, like a paint scraper and start dragging that in really quickly.
You have a question which I can answer. Janice, it's Kerry, Kerry, Sacco, Sacco. And her website is kerrysacco.com.
Yes, I'm on Instagram too. It's at Sacco Kerry, and I do have a Facebook directly, you know, Kerry Sacco paintings and lithographs. But so this is just very, very quick. Now I'm going to take a bigger brush and scrub some of those areas down.
Kerry, do you use a medium, and if so, what, to thin out the paint for your underpainting wash?
Oh, for that, yes, I just use my Gamsol thinner. This is the safest one that I've found. That's what I use for my transparent underpainting washes. That was a good question. So again, this is winter. You're gonna see just a lot of bare tree forms, and so kind of a band here is just the far off color of the, you know, the underbrush and everything. And I'm just going to keep that as a real soft blue because I want to get to some of the water really quick before. So that's, you know, that's just a quick reference of a line of trees or bushes behind. Have some fuzz in there.
When do we get to the cocktails?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to do this and then we'll get to the cocktail. Okay. And that'll be really quick. Because the champagne already popped itself.
Right. Some people might not know what you said.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, we promised to make a summer cocktail recipe for you. And I have all the ingredients sitting here.
Right there.
And while we were talking, the champagne or the Prosecco cork decided to pop itself and kind of hit Jim in the back. So that, it could have been a little bit of a disaster, but it wasn't. So this forward,
As long as it didn't get me in the eye.
yeah, this front tree is bigger and darker, so I just want to kind of make sure. And then I'm going to get this band here and then start bringing the water. So when I am painting water reflections, I try to do a couple different strokes, but mostly the strokes kind of drag down. And then I might come across with a couple of little reflections and stuff like that. But it's just something that I've been taught, or I've kind of found success in. Just a little back edge of the creek. So I'm just working background and coming forward. Sometimes working that back sky just really starts helping with some values.
How long would it take you to complete this painting to your satisfaction?
I have to work on paintings in stages. So I'd have this painting going, I'd have 2 more of, a 12 by 12 size, then I'd have a little mini. So all in all, if I really had to sit down, I could probably get this done in a couple of days. Because I have to let it sit. I have to turn it upside down. I have to leave the room and see what's happening. It just is the way that my mind operates, unless I have a deadline. Very deadline oriented. Aren't we all? Come on, somebody else say that they are. Especially with commissions. Don't give me like a broad, I need to know when you need that commission done, because I'll keep putting it off. But I do commissions if anyone's interested. All right, so that's just a little bit of the creek's edge. All right, so before I start dragging it into the water, let's make a cocktail really quick. All right, this is an Aperol Spritz. So if you folks have ever traveled, it's getting really popular here in the States, but we fell in love with these in Italy.
Sometimes called a Venice spritz.
Yeah. Italy is our favorite place to travel. Of course, haven't been there. And that poor country has suffered just like the rest of the world. But anyway, lots of crushed ice. This is a little clementine. You can use an orange wedge. Aperol is an aperitif. It is kind of a bitter orange flavor made with herbs and stuff like that. It's Italiano. So you do a little bit of Aperol. I just eyeball it. It's supposed to look like the sunset on the Venice Canal. Top it off with Prosecco, which is the sparkling wine from Italy, mostly the Veneto region, which is, where Venice is. Yum, yum, yum.
I'm glad the cameraman gets one.
The cameraman has one too. And then you top it off with some club soda. Forgot to bring our reusable straws. So on a hot day of sightseeing all throughout Europe, you can pretty much get these. Give it a little stir with the tongs. But they're so yummy. Whoops. So see how it looks so pretty, like the sunset?
Cheers.
Cheers. Salute. All right, I'm going to have a sip and then go back to painting.
Yummy.
Yummy. Okay, So let's talk about that killer Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show virtual endeavor that we did. All right, I'm dragging down with a little bit of color here. I'm so proud of this board, what we pulled off. This was our third virtual show. What we provided for our artists, how much we've grown in a year. So I'm just getting a couple of, I'm gonna need a little darker color on there. So let me get some of my blues and stop rushing so much. I'll calm down. I actually had my physical booth set up here at my house, and I conducted some Instagram interviews that were wonderful, and we're just really grateful to our followers and our patrons and our fans for tuning in. And the best news of all is that our September show, we are back in the park, and the city is getting back to normal, and hopefully people are being smart about it. And the show dates for that are September 17th, 18th, and 19th. So we're going to be able to, see, I'm dragging down with the paint, and I'm keeping it really transparent to start. And, you know, I will keep some of this really warm color that really helps with translucency of water. So you have to kind of find what your focal point is. Hopefully it's not like dead square in the painting. So I'm gonna, you know, focus more on heavier brush stroke and, you know, a real like strong pops of color right there. And then I'm gonna take that same color and make it a little bit darker, and then continue down. So you have to think like what is reflecting. It's that whole masses, not grasses philosophy of big shapes. So it's a big shape from this grove of trees reflecting. It's the big shape of this real dark tree reflecting down. So here, I might even take a little touch of a thinner, and just a little touch in my Gamsol, and see how that adds a little bit more coverage. Adam's being a good boy. And then as I'm working and I'm covering up I just work in a disposable palette, I take a couple different, like this is an old wide X-Acto blade. I use that or a palette knife to clean off. But I'll just keep scooping up all this color. And you know, this is what I call local color. And I'll take all that paint, which would be dried or left over, and I'll just hit it in an area, because I know I can go back to that. But I know oh. All right, any more questions?
Not at this
What's our time looking like? Oh, I like that violet right in there.
I don't have the time.
Let's see. So next week for 5 o'clock club, our fellow board member Chris Guanomo is he's our sculptor, and he's going to be doing a stone carving demo, which will be really cool. Hasn't done one of those in a while. So that's next Thursday. And then the following Thursday, I will be interviewing gallery owners Tina Rocha and Mike Kovas. They own Cerulean Arts Gallery in Philadelphia. And we're going to take a little tour and hear that story of, you know, how they opened this gallery where there was like nothing, and they hung in there during, you know, the 2008, you know, on a block where they were like the only building standing. So it's a great co-op space that I'm just doing some little kind of rock.
Janice is very excited that Rittenhouse is back.
I know.
She lives right there at Washington Square Park.
Oh, nice. Your park is probably just as busy as Rittenhouse is, from what I hear. So that's another good point to bring up. I'm the volunteer coordinator. So Janice, if you know anyone or you're interested in volunteering on our Rittenhouse Square Fine Arts Show page, there's a section where to volunteer. It's a Sign Up Genius, and we will happily accept any amount of time you can give us. So yeah, I'll just keep working on this, and I'll go back in so these trees don't look like, you know, post-apocalyptic. I'll work with some branches and get color, the winter color. But there's a really beautiful band of, you know, warm yellows and oranges back there that I want to try to explore later.
Kerry's booth is right across from Park Restaurant.
Yes.
FYI.
FYI.
18th and Locust.
I did a painting for our online gallery, which was a great success, by the way. But this painting was a little scene from Park. Just, you know, a table and the waiters. And it was titled Missing the View, because at this point we really all are missing the view, and it has changed so much. So we're hoping
And you could have sold 5 of them.
I could have sold 5 of those, yes. It's a very beloved spot in the city. Let me check the time. 5:38. This is a good time to use these great neutral colors to mix up some colors for the rock. Big stones.
Show that. No.
The bottoms, you know, where the water and, you know, the soil hits it, tend to have that rusty red color. I painted this creek a number of times. Just above this whole scene is a beautiful railroad trestle. I've had one sip of a spritz, everybody. So just big, broad strokes to depict the form of the rock. And then I can get more of the water coming down. Might have to adjust the temperature or the value of the rock. But it, you know, just the reflective qualities of the winter landscape versus a summer landscape, it's just a really cool thing to observe. We walk these trails all the time, so it's just really great. All right, I'm gonna lighten up my blues. I'm gonna add some medium. I'm gonna come here and see if I need to bump down. Yeah, so there's my rock. Okay, so my rock is... So just go back and like drag down, then go back and forth, just to capture that big mass of the body of water, if you're doing it, and then deal with like the little details. Don't try to paint like a little ripple of water. It just looks really, really fake. Don't be a slave to your reference material. You can make up a little story of where the water wants to go. It is nice to paint fast like this. Thank you guys for tuning in as I'm forcing myself. But it is good. It's like you have to keep walking backwards and then come forward. All right, so I wanted to show you one more painting that's almost at the finished stage, before I sign off, but let me get my hands cleaned up a little bit because the painting is already in a frame. And this is one of those things where paintings paintings, yes, you can say like, this is finished. And that's one of the things about becoming a more confident painter, like when you can say yes. But a lot of times I have little tiny things that bother me about some work, and I'm like, what is it? And I'll even have paintings in shows and just be like, I don't know, there's something. So the painting I'm going to show you next is one of those. So I'm going to put this off to the side. Just keep it on here, Jen. Sorry, I just got my hands dirty again. Is Mary Lynn still on? She might not be. She might have left.
I'm not sure. I can't see everyone that's on.
Okay. Flip this because the painting's in a frame. All right, so this painting is another winter scene, and it just was like way too dark. It was like way too dark. So I lightened up everything, including, this background range of, Pennsylvania mountains. But the sun, it was just like super cold. It was overcast, but you just had that really like brief twinkling that the sun might want to shine through. So that's why I decided to rework all of this. So I went in here and I tried to establish this line of just this like little marsh area with some different darks, not all the same. I added, I have like a bluer based dark. I have a more violet based dark. And then I kept going on top with more lines of color. So I'm really happy with the way it's turning out now. I think there's a little bit more translucency in there because I kept going at it, dragging colors down and coming over and hitting little bits of maybe the marsh grass that have fallen in. Right in here, I'm gonna try to get, just because there's not a lot of sunlight, which is creating a lot of reflections, but the reflections are still there. So I might try to keep coming in and adding a little bit more depth into the water. And when I do that little scribble down, I go sideways and then I hit it with that edge, and then I can even try to hit it with some of the solvent to make it, you know, looser. But this is the finishing stages of doing something with water. So I just wanted to show you how, you know, it's okay to go in and rework something that has even been on and it's even better, like it's more layered now. And if you have a big mass area that looks like too red, break it up with the complementary color on the color wheel. So I'm just gonna kind of go in there and add like little teeny touches of a green in there. It just makes it more interesting. I'll probably cover that part up. Knock that back down. But I had a client talking about winter colors, and his description was so good, and it was just like, you know, nature, it's stripped down, and you don't have the foliage blocking things. You know, you can peek at structures that you never noticed before, but just taking time to do the subtleties of the winter landscape, especially with creek reflections like in this one. And this one is something I really like. So, thank you for tuning in. And remember, next week is Chris Bonomo with stone carving demo, 5 o'clock. We will see you back in the park, September 17th, 18th, and 19th. We have, oh, is that my cocktail? We have our student applications are going to be up soon, so we're welcoming students back to our show, and absolutely welcoming all volunteers. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the demo. It'll be up on the YouTube channel for the Rittenhouse Square Art Show, and there's a ton of great videos that you can view there too. So, and we're on Twitter. So it's like, follow us on Twitter.
What's your address?
So, on Twitter?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Somebody type that in. Some board member type that in. But for me, it is kerrysacco.com. And I'm
Diane
Sacco.
Turner joined.
Oh, hi, Diane. And so anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.